Hello everyone, welcome to Everyday Essential series of Shantalakshmi IAS Academy, where we are going to discuss the essential topics from the Hindu and the Indian Express. So today, as part of this series, let us discuss the topics of 11th June 2025, where we are going to discuss about the State of the World Population 2025, the Real Fertility Crisis Report of UNFPA. And the second one is the National Security Guard. The third one is this Italian hydroelectric project, and fourth one Sant Das, and finally the Croatia country as part of this Map a Country a Day series. Now starting with our first topic, that is State of the World Population 2025, the Real Fertility Crisis Report. So why we are discussing this? On June 10th, this UNFPA, United Nations Population Fund, has released this report. We'll see what this report has told. See, this report, along with the UNFPA, one more organization was also involved, that is YouGov. So both these surveyed around 12 countries in knowing about the desired family size of the individuals. So what is the main focus of this report? That it wants to know about what truly drives fertility trends across the globe. So by serving across these 12 countries, this UNFPA wants to know about the what truly drives the fertility trends across the globe by asking individual questions regarding the family size. So what it found means that nearly 20% of the population from these 12 countries will believe that they are unable to have the number of desired children. Nearly 20% believe that they are unable to have the number of children they desire. Number of children they desire. And it also noted that nearly 1 in 3% experienced unintended pregnancy. Unintended pregnancy. That means without a conscious choice, 1 in 3% have experienced this unintended pregnancy. It also noted that around 39% of these members believe that the financial limitations will play a major role in having their desired family size. And nearly 1 in 5 persons believed or had fears about the future, that is related to climate change or the wars or the pandemic and other displacement and the migration issues. Nearly 1 in 5 persons do not go for having children due to the fear about this future. So, by surveying about the 12 countries, these organization UNFP and the Yoga House found the behavioral patterns or what is truly driving the fertility trends across the globe. And coming to with respect to the India's data, it also found that the India becomes the world's most populous nation with 146.39 crore, surpassing China with 149 point some crores. And coming to the total fertility rate, it noted that the total fertility rate declined to 1.9, which is less than the replacement rate of 2.1. It also noted about the youth population. The younger generation population in India are 24% within the age group of 0 to 14 and the 17% in the age group of 10 to 19 years and 26% in population within the age group of 10 to 24 years. And working age population are 68% in India. And coming to the elderly population consists of about 7% in India. And coming to the life expectancy at birth, it measured that it is 71 for men and 74 for women. So these are the data related to the India. Now coming to the organization UNFPA. It was started in the year 1969, established in the year 1969 as a United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency, as United Nations Fund for Population Activities, UNFPA. But in the year 1987, it changed to the United Nations Population Fund, but retaining this acronym as the UNFPA only. And what is this major goal of this UNFPA? To ensure that the sexual and reproductive rights and choices for all in a very voluntary manner, and also contributing or measuring the importance of this maternal health and the autonomy in decision making regarding these reproductive and sexual rights. It is the subsidiary organ of the United Nations General Assembly. Remember, this UNFPA is the subsidiary organ of the United Nations General Assembly, and it reports to the UNFPA Executive Board consisting of 36 UN member states. It also receives the policy guidance from the UN ECOSOC, that is United Nations Economic and Social Council. And here the important thing is that this UNFPA runs entirely by the voluntary organizations through donations only. It does not get its budget from the UN regular budget. No, it does not have any funds in this UN regular budget, United Nations regular budget. This UNFPA is entirely run by the voluntary contributions only. Now moving to our second topic, that is National Security Guard. So why we are discussing this? The aftermath of this Operation Sindoor, National Security Guard played a key role in diffusing 8 kgs of explosives dropped by the 2 drones at the Jammu civilian airport. And coming to the National Security Guard, in the year 1984, there was a proposal for setting up a specially trained National Security Guard for dealing with all activities related to the terrorist related activities. And this was formally established in the year 1986 as a federal contingency world class zero error force, say zero error force, to deal with anti terror activities in all its manifestation. So this National Security Guard is a specially or elite body, anti-terrorist body, which has the zero error force to deal with the anti-terrorist activities in all its manifestations. And it was inspired or it was based on the pattern of the SAS of the UK and the GST 9 of the Germany. It also, this NSG also covers security cover to the VVIPs, very important persons. And this NSG is used only in the exceptional circumstances in thwarting the terrorist related activities. It has two complementary elements, that is Special Action Group. This Special Action Group comprises personnel from the armed forces. And other one is the Special Ranger Group, SRJ. This comprises forces from the Central Armed Police Forces plus the State Police Forces. So this NSG has also played its role during the Operation Sindoor. Remember, for this Operation Sindoor this year, for any competitive examinations, various security forces are very important. And third topic, coming to a third topic, that is the Italian hydroelectric project. Yesterday we discussed about the Sampo project, that is Siang Upper Multi-Purpose Project in Arunachal Pradesh. What is the purpose of this project? To counter the Chinese projects, to neutralize the adverse effect of the Chinese projects which are going to be built along the border of the Arunachal Pradesh. So India also planned many multi-purpose projects in the Arunachal Pradesh. So regarding that only, it also planned the Italian hydroelectric project. And now the Environment Ministry's Forest Advisory Committee has granted the principal forest clearance to this Italian hydroelectric project. We'll see where is this project. It is a multi-purpose hydroelectric project. It is situated or going to be constructed on the Dibang Valley of the Arunachal Pradesh. Yesterday also Arunachal Pradesh only, that is in the Siang River. And it is constructed on the Dri and the Tangan rivers. Both are the tributaries of this Dibhang River. Coming to the installed capacity of this project, it is 3097 megawatt. And this project is going to be developed by the joint venture, that is the Italian Hydroelectric Power Company, which is a joint venture of the Jindal Power Limited and the Hydropower Development Corporation of the Arunachal Pradesh Limited, which is a government-owned company. And the tribes belonging to this area are the Ido-Mishmi tribes of Arunachal Pradesh. Now coming to the Dibhang River, it is the upper stream tributary of the Brahmaputra river system. It takes its origin from the Keya Pass on the Indo-China border. And it flows in the upper and lower Dibang Valley of this Arunachal Pradesh. And after flowing 159 kilometers, and it enters Lohit River north of the Dibru-Saikhowa Sanctuary, which is situated in the Assam. And coming to the tributaries of this Dibang River, it has tributaries namely the Sisar, Mathon, Tangan, Dri, Itun and the Embra. Now moving to a fourth topic, that is the Sant Kabir Das. Why we are discussing this? June 11th is the birth anniversary of the Sant Kabir Das, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has paid his tributes to Sant Kabir Das, saying his contribution in removing the evils prevalent in the society will always be remembered with reverence. So this Sant Kabir Das is a 15th century mystic poet, saint and a social reformer and a proponent of the Bhakti movement. Though he was a Muslim, his spiritual guru was Ramananda. He took the wisdom from the Ramananda, who was a Hindu. And the Sant Kabir Das wrote many literature, that is Kabir Granthawali, Anuraga Sagar, Bijak and Sakhi Granth in the Hindi language. He was born in Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. And his verses are found in Sikkim scripture, Guru Granth Sahib also. And his legacy is continuing today in the form of the Kabir Panth. Now, coming to the Map a Country series, that is Croatia. Why we are discussing this? Yesterday in our Everyday Essential series, we discussed that about the Cyprus. Why? Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on his visit to G7 summit that is going to be held on Canada, will visit the Cyprus. And while coming back to India, he will visit this Croatia. So, yesterday we discussed about the Cyprus. Now, we'll see about this Croatia. So this Croatia is a country in the Central and Southeast Europe. It is bordered by Hungary on its northeast, Serbia on its east, Bosnia and Herzegovina on its southeast, and see here some little amount of its south corner also bordered with the Montenegro and Slovenia on its west. So Croatia is bordered by Hungary, Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Slovenia. And here it is the Adriatic Sea. So it is a country in the Central and Southeast Europe in the coast of the Adriatic Sea. Its capital is Zagreb. It is a developed economy, and the Danube River also runs through this Vukovar city, which is in Croatia. Danube River runs through this Vukovar city. This Croatia is a member of the NATO, European Union, United Nations and the World Trade Organization also. So that's all for today. Thank you.